Before we begin this show, Civil Defiance, we want to make something perfectly clear. The content presented herein is the personal opinion, commentary, analysis, and constitutionally protected hyperbole of the host, Otto Bismarck, and should be considered as such. This show, Civil Defiance, is a form of political and social criticism directed toward archetypes of public figures and patterns of misconduct in the media and political spheres. We are discussing generalized tactics and behaviors based solely on the public record, verifiable facts, and widely published information regarding general trends in media and politics. We are not making statements of fact regarding the personal or private conduct of any specific named individual, nor is any individual our sole subject. We make no representations or warranties, express or implied, as to the completeness, accuracy, or reliability of our opinions or commentary on these archetypes. If you are seeking facts, consult the primary source documents. If you are seeking robust, volatile, and unapologetic criticism of the forces that undermine liberty, welcome to Civil Defiance.
Welcome to Civil Defiance. I'm Otto Bismarck. The Constitution sets a minimum age of 35 to run for the highest office in the land. The founders, in their wisdom, decided that the immense power of the executive required a minimum standard of maturity, experience, and stability of character. They guarded against the caprice and impulsiveness of youth, but they committed a profound omission. They failed to guard against the incapacity and inevitable decline of advanced age. Today, the political system is a gerontocracy, a government ruled by the old. This is not about experience. This is about biological, verifiable decay. We are currently governed on both sides of the aisle by men and women whose physical and cognitive processing power is verifiably below that of the national average for high-level, complex decision-making roles. This is a uniparty problem, where both major factions present candidates whose age is, in my opinion, a clear and present danger to the republic. We need a maximum age limit for the presidency for the exact same reason we need a minimum one. The job demands a level of physical and cognitive acuity that is not guaranteed, and in fact is increasingly unlikely beyond a certain point in the human lifespan. Let's start with the logic of the minimum age. The founders recognized that the executive must have had sufficient time in public life to build a reputation and understand national interests. 35 was an arbitrary, yet rational floor. The debate for a maximum age is not arbitrary. It is driven by modern, verifiable scientific fact. When the Constitution was written, the average life expectancy was far lower. The idea of a man taking the oath of office in his late 70s or 80s and surviving a full term with full mental capacity was almost unthinkable. It is now commonplace. The argument against a maximum age, that it is ageist and violates the spirit of free choice, is political gaslighting. We have mandatory retirement ages for Supreme Court justices in some states, commercial airline pilots, military flag officers, and air traffic controllers. These are jobs that require immediacy, split-second judgment, and the management of high-stakes risk. The presidency is all of these, magnified by a factor of 1,000. If you cannot pilot a plane at age 65, I contend you should not command the nuclear arsenal at age 80. The issue is not just longevity, it is cognitive endurance. The modern presidency is a 24/7 mental and physical marathon under immense stress. It requires high working memory, the ability to rapidly synthesize complex information, and inhibitory control, the capacity to stop yourself from saying or doing something impulsive, inappropriate, or damaging. All three of these capacities are scientifically proven to decline as we move deep into our 70 and 80 decades of life. We have witnessed this crisis play out on a national stage with the two most recent executive archetypes, one the current incumbent and one the previous one. We will refer to them only as Executive A and Executive B. Executive A, the current sitting executive, exhibits repeated and publicly documented instances of language changes and memory lapses. We see the slurring of words, the obvious reliance on note cards even for short, prepared remarks, and the frequent use of generic terms like the thing or whatchamacallit because the specific word is temporarily inaccessible. In my opinion, this points to language and memory retrieval issues that, while sometimes normal in aging, are catastrophic when the fate of a global alliance rests on the precision of your speech. We also see the stumbling gait and physical frailty, which are not just embarrassing, they are signs of a system operating at maximum load, leaving no reserve for a true national crisis. Executive B, the predecessor, shows symptoms focused heavily on the failure of inhibitory control. We see the constant, repetitive return to grievances and examples from decades past, the inability to stick to a script, and the frequent blurting out of inappropriate or inflammatory statements. The difficulty in staying focused and managing emotional responses, the inhibitory control failure, is just as dangerous as memory loss. It means the executive lacks the internal check required to prevent a moment of frustration or rage from escalating a diplomatic or military crisis. The Uniparty shields these flaws. Supporters of both sides ignore the clear signs of functional decline because they are blinded by their desire for political victory. They would rather install a cognitively impaired puppet than risk losing power, and that, I contend, is the ultimate treason. It places party loyalty above national security. The most dangerous consequence of this geriatric leadership is the slowing of processing speed at the top of the chain of command. A high-pressure crisis, a terrorist attack, a nuclear escalation, a sudden economic collapse requires instantaneous, complex decision-making. The older brain, while perhaps having more wisdom for slow strategic problems, struggles with rapid adaptive ones. Imagine the Situation Room, raw, unverified intelligence is flooding in. The decision window is measured in minutes. A young executive's brain excels at processing speed and working memory, synthesis, and immediate recall of data. The late-aged executive's brain struggles with rapid information intake and is more prone to cognitive fatigue, the ability to keep that level of high-intensity thought going for 18 hours straight. The Uniparty risk is that the decisions are not actually being made by the executive, but by the unelected staff, the chiefs of staff, the national security advisors, the young, ambitious operatives who do have the processing speed but lack the constitutional accountability. The elderly executive becomes a constitutional shell, a figurehead whose primary function is to sign the orders written by unelected hands. This is how the administrative state achieves its final victory, by installing a figure too slow and too confused to resist the deep state apparatus. Now we come to the final, most devastating consequence and the heart of this episode's civil defiance. The global community is no longer fooled. Foreign leaders, particularly those of rival and allied nations, are highly sophisticated observers of American political function. They have watched the televised stumbles, the memory lapses, and the obvious reliance on staff cues. They understand the nature of the current sitting executive's diminished capacity and what is our only saving grace. The horrifying reality is that the world leaders understand the corrupt, chaotic, and extreme cognitive decline of the current administration, and they are simply ignoring the old dementia-ridden fool of a president, what we have now. They are not engaging the sitting executive directly on critical, sensitive matters unless absolutely necessary. They are bypassing the executive and dealing directly with the Secretary of State, the Defense Secretary, or high-level White House staff. They know that what the executive says on one day may be forgotten or contradicted the next. This is not respect, it is diplomatic triage. They have relegated the highest office in the free world to a ceremonial liability. This is the ultimate insult to the American experiment. The world has looked at the Uniparty's choice of leadership and concluded that the office is currently unoccupied by a fully functioning mind. The power vacuum is filled by unelected staff who are running foreign policy through back channels because they have to, and the world is allowing it because they fear the alternative, a confused, impulsive order given by an executive whose cognitive capacity is waning. Civil defiance must demand a constitutional amendment for a maximum age limit, perhaps the age of 70, to take the oath of office for the first time. The founders provided a floor for maturity. We must provide a ceiling for decline. We must reclaim the constitutional requirement for solid wisdom and experience, and acknowledge the scientific reality that they have a shelf life. Anything less is a betrayal of the national security and a submission to the Gerontocracy of the Uni Party.